According to there you go. We are live. John Lavina's Success Mastermind. I can see a lot of happy faces here, which is great to see. The 11th of January, 2022. So we're rolling in 2022. This is one of the early presentations of the year. We had a great one from John yesterday about pivoting, which I'll follow up on from a different angle. Housekeeping. We do have the great Ivier on the line with us in the background there. And Ivier is speaking later. Corporate Curios, fantastic session. 5 o'clock Eastern time US, which I think is still 10 p.m. UK time. So anyone that can join, Ivier is going to be talking about anything from management to teamwork to corporate scenarios and stories and how to handle them and what to do and how to approach difficult situations and everything else that she covers. Well worth listening to. So I'm handling the general session. We're going to talk, as we normally do, about mindset in general, about what we should be focusing on and sharing stories, sharing thoughts on how to go about achieving the success that we're all looking for, achieving the goals that we've all set down for ourselves, hopefully. So good to see you all. I'm sure more people will dial in, but I will kick off. I was going to call the session today, Focus, Proactive Ignorance, which is a new concept, you'll be pleased to hear, and positivity. And I'll explain all that in a minute. But the general context is, and this has struck me a lot over the Christmas period, trying to assess what I'm actually doing with my time. And John talked yesterday about the app again and looking at what you're doing with your time. So this is quite a nice follow-up to that. And as I know already and tell myself every year and throughout the year, you can only row one boat at a time. However, it is very easy to forget that as we go along. We get bombarded with special requests, with calls for help, with family members trying to get us to do things, whatever it might be. Of course, it's easy for people to ask you for help, and we all like giving it. But that does tend to mean, if we're not careful, that we are rowing more than one boat at the same time. And it's easy for that to spread from our personal lives into the business sphere, where we're backing up other people's ventures, getting involved in joint ventures, launching new ideas without really focusing on the main idea that's taking us to our destination, that big destination we've set down. Chasing too many targets at the same time, that's what then happens. Because instead of having one set of targets, which is bad enough, we end up with several. John talks about chasing too many chickens at the same time. That's how he puts it. And I love that image. So what occurred to me particularly is that we do need to start 2022 with an awareness of focus and how important focus is, and also of our realistic available resources within that focus. So either one of those things will sink us. If we don't focus in the first place, we don't have a chance. If we do focus, but then we are not realistic about how much we can achieve in a given time, given our resources, that's going to sink us as well. But if we can fix and focus on both of those things, then I know this year is going to be a success for everybody listening. I know that, because those two things are crucial pillars of completing the year and completing our goals for the year. But it also struck me that almost as disastrous as not consistently working on something is consistently overworking on things, i.e. on the wrong things. That leads to overwork. So part of this lack of focus and discipline in terms of rowing one boat is ending up working and overworking, because we're working on a lot of other things we shouldn't be working on. And we have to spend time, and this came up again yesterday, on our not to-do list and what we're not going to do. And I know this was referred to, I think, by Linda yesterday in the context of what she was reading. I mean, I do think it is crucial that we focus on what we can change and what we should do, but I do believe this not to-do list is pretty crucial, because it stops you trying to row more than one boat. So we have to have that discipline of saying, look, we've got to be conscious when we set our focus that we don't allow overcrowding. And that overcrowding comes from having lots of other things on the to-do list that we shouldn't really be doing, and we don't know why we're doing them. If we really think about it, they're stealing our time. They're actually stealing our creative, productive time on our main goal. But tackling that actually does require a very proactive and positive mindset. We can't just drift around saying, well, yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. You've got to positively, aggressively say, no, I'm not going to allow this overcrowding to take place on my list. I'm going to get off that list the things that shouldn't be there and focus on the things that should be there. we only have a certain number of hours to spend in the day. And we talked about this vision of a jar full of stones once, each one of those stones being a bit of time, and we take it out and it's gone, and it's left the jar and it's gone for that day. We can't get it back. So we've got to allocate those stones in that jar to the right things. So we've got to be, very, very conscious of this. We've actually got to fiercely, proactively defend the bastions of our inner mind, as I'll call them. We've got to push back in a very, very preordained way. We've got to be sure before we get into these situations that we know we're strong enough to say no. Somebody asks you to do something which really is going to completely destroy your allocated time for that day on your really important business or personal goal. You've got to be ready to say no in advance, because we all like to say yes. And you're going to say yes almost automatically unless you're ready to say no. Now, I'm not saying you turn down people in genuine need of help on that day, but there may be another time you can do it, or maybe it's really, when you look at it, you shouldn't be doing it at all. You should be getting them to do it. We all like to help, but we're our own worst enemy. Sometimes we end up taking massive amounts of work onto our own list, and we give our own time away. We don't get anywhere on a creative goal. So it's not just drifting, therefore, through the day. It's being proactive, not a sort of wait and see, it'll be okay, hope for the best kind of mindset. It's no, positively no, tackling and defending my time mindset is what's going to make the difference. I mean, I thought about some of the greats that we always talk about. We talk about Da Vinci, we talk about Jobs, we talk about Edison often. All of those and others did not reach the skies by hoping for the best. They were very proactive in what they were prepared to focus their efforts on. And that's all they did. So much so that they would not tackle any other line of business. They wouldn't go any other way. They said, that's my project. There's my target. I'm going to work only on that until it's completed. So that's the proactive, positive, aggressive mindset we've got to have in defending our time and rowing only one boat. For those dialing in now, I'm talking about rowing only one boat today, focusing on our time on the right things. And I'll come back to all this in a minute. So the filters in the case of those great people that achieved great things were so developed that absolutely nothing would be allowed to come between them and their dreams. They just would not allow it. And that's why they attained these incredible heights. They religiously, relentlessly chipped away at their problems on their main goal list towards their main goal and not on something else. Anything that was extraneous was just filtered out. They had a very strong filter. And then I got to thinking, well, how do we envision this? Well, let's say you've perhaps once in your life knocked over some liquid or a pile of objects on a table. In doing that, have you ever noticed that we instinctively just try and save one thing? We just reach out for the one thing. It's in our subconscious. We know what it is. And if our priorities are clear and our priority is of value to us, then our subconscious takes over and we grab that item and we protect it. And we instinctively reach in all this chaos of something getting knocked over for that one thing. And this is much what a parent would do in trying to save their child in a time of crisis. So we've got this instinct, it's in our subconscious, and we can use it to defend our priorities and stick on focus on our project list and our goals list, because we have this innate capacity to defend our time and prioritize. And if we're very clear before we get into situations what it is that's important to us, and that priority is of sufficient value in your overall goal, I can guarantee you will instinctively defend it, because we do. It's where we're not clear in advance what our reaction is going to be, and we're not clear about the priority, and we're not clear of the value of that priority to us. We might be a bit vague, and we end up saying, oh, sure, I'll give you my time to sort out your problem. I won't work on my own. So that's one aspect of this today that I wanted to talk about. The second thing is that this focus really needs to be coupled with positively setting goals, but positive goals, not overwhelming goals. An overwhelming interim goal doesn't help us. It just deters us and depresses us. So yes, we always talk about the big goal, the one thing, the burning desire, and we have to have that big goal. In fact, it's got to be so big that we call it a dream, and we're happy to call it a dream because it's really big. It's not an everyday thing. But then to get to that big goal, we know we have to set these interim goals, these mini goals, as we call them. Those are what count day to day as we're chipping away up that mountain towards that big dream goal. In each work session that we have, those mini interim goals are driving us. The big goals in the back of our mind, but we're saying, that's what I've got to achieve today, this week, this month, in my 12-week plan or whatever it is we've set down. And if we haven't properly designed those interim and mini goals, we're just inviting depression, frustration, and a feeling of failure when we get to the end of the period set and we haven't achieved them. So looking at how we're designing those interim goals, those mini goals, is really crucial. It's so important, alongside focus, that we're focusing on the right things in the period we've set for the task. And I look then to a road building example. The Romans used to build incredibly straight roads. Anyone that knows European history will know that. Most of their roads were incredibly straight for incredibly long distances. And they knew they wanted to arrive at the correct destination point, but they had to make sure that the road met up and arrived at that destination. And to do that, they put markers on the interim high points along the way that they could see across, to mark the whole way right across to the destination. And we need to, in our mindset, those interim high point markers to mark our way to our destination. And we've got to properly design those, as I've just said, so they're not overwhelming. They're encouraging and positive, not just overwhelming. So we'll never tackle them. We'll never realistically achieve those interim goals, which just depresses us and leaves us feeling empty and a failure. We failed at our goal. Crumbs, what do I do now? So the interim goals point us in the right direction, but they also break the task down, or they should do, and reduce it to something manageable and something I can cope with. I mean, who wants to be overwhelmed? Any of us want to be overwhelmed? It's not a great feeling. We just don't like it. It feels bad. Imagine the scene. I thought to myself, Sir Edmund Hillary, the eventual conqueror of Mount Everest, standing in his back garden as a young boy, thinking just about Mount Everest and just standing there thinking about how big it was. That wouldn't have probably got him where he got. It's just overwhelming. But what I can do is think about my next practice, my next climb, my next instructor, my next piece of equipment, and I can focus one length of rope at a time on getting up that rock face, and then on the next rock face until I get better and better and I get onto a bigger rock face. But I have to break it down like that. And as Alison once referred us to in her cycling analogy, you look up this incredibly steep hill on your bicycle, one wheel in front at a time. You don't look at the top of the hill because it's likely to deter you. So this all goes along with focus. And just to reiterate, I'm following up from John's point yesterday about use of our time and pivoting, et cetera, and all the things we talked about. So we got to focus on one big goal at a time and row one boat, which is today's theme. We've got to have a very strong filter in terms of what I would call being positively ignorant. In other words, ignoring things that should not take us off our main task, positive ignorance. We've got to make those goals that we're setting into interim, well-designed goals, but which are positive and not daunting and just disheartening. And then lastly, before I go back onto some action points that we can take, we've got to focus on what we can change and not on what we cannot change. And we've said this time and time again. Venus Williams said, I don't focus on what I'm up against. I focus on my goals and I try to ignore the rest. Look at what you're trying to achieve. What can I actually do about these things? Don't just sit there. We can just sit there and become trapped and frustrated by fixing onto something that we want to combat because we just don't like it, because it's wrong, it's annoying, it's inefficient. That just leads to frustration. What we should do is, amongst all that frustration, inefficiency, and badly working bureaucracy, for example, look at the things we can change and then do something about them and try and get ahead. And that means, well, we can, of course, some of us might want to become campaigners against bureaucracy, complainers, because things aren't working. We don't like the way they're set up, but that is not going to help you reach your goals. We won't get to our goals doing that. We can vent some frustration, but we'll get absolutely nowhere. What we've got to do is actually do what we can do and change what we can change in getting to these goals. And I'm going to adapt Helen Keller's quote at this point, to put it another way, from another angle. When one door closes, another opens, but often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. So that's looking from another point of view. We can become fixated on what's not working, which we can't change, and wonder why we didn't achieve anything that month. We spend our whole time venting our fury and our frustration and our depression on things that had stopped us, rather than saying, I'm going to find something I can do about this. And it may mean a different route, the road's slightly altered, but I'm going to get there. So what can we do? Well, I was trying to think, what can we do about all these points that have been raised? Action point one, for myself was, let's set out in 2022 with a strong focus on what we want from the year and from our life. Let's just check we know what that is. And John was talking about goals yesterday to try and kickstart us in 2022. But this kind of vision requires a daily discipline, but it also requires a very clear awareness, of course, of what our goals are, which we think we have, but sometimes when we check, we're a little bit vague again. We've just lost it over the year or 6 months and slightly diluted it or gone off down a branch line. So it all seems obvious, but let's just check our goals from time to time. Stephen Kellogg put it this way: it's better to be at the bottom of the ladder you want to climb than at the top of the one you don't. So we don't want to end up in sort of 3 or 4 months at the top of this ladder thinking, wow, great job I've done on that. Hang on, why am I here? So we've always got to test that we are still going in the right direction, that what we're doing is relevant. And if those goals are the right ones, then focus isn't going to be a problem, because we will focus on priorities. If we're in the right line, aligned with our heart, our burning desire, we will get the job done. But we've got to keep checking that. So in terms of action point 2, filtering, I talked about a few minutes ago. This is the not to do list and the strong subconscious filter I talked about that these great people like Jobs and Da Vinci had. And I gave the example there of a parent saving their child in a crisis. Instinctively, they will save their child, whatever it takes. So if we've got our priorities and our goals set, as I've just said, we will definitely protect that time to allow us to fulfill those goals we've set. And that's the level of burning clarity we need in order to be able to filter properly in advance and when we're in a situation, the kind of filter a parent has saving their child. And if the house was burning down, what would we save? Ask yourself that. You need to have that kind of clarity in terms of, what would I do with my time? What is my most important thing I'm going to do with it? Am I that clear? Am I clear enough that I'd run back into the house and save what? We have to know that if we're going to succeed in achieving our goals. As a nice illustration of that, legendary blues guitarist B.B. King, who many of you will have heard of, he had to make exactly that decision when he was playing in the Twist nightclub in Arkansas in 1949. It had a brazier on the stage because they had no proper heating, with a burning fire in it. Somebody knocked it over during a fight and everyone left the building. He realized he'd left his guitar behind and he ran back in to save that guitar because music and his guitar was so important to him. That was his priority. Now, he later thought maybe that was crazy, but he did it instinctively, subconsciously, because in his mind at that point, his whole career, his whole burning desire was music, and that guitar was allowing him to achieve it. By the way, I have to say, John, for YouTube, don't try this at home. Don't run back into a burning building to save your guitar. But he did it. So my mind, thinking about it when I tried to analyze my own position, has really become what I would describe as a British garden shed, crammed with items I might just want or might need and full of beautiful disorder. So can I tidy that shed full of ideas and goals in 2022? Can I actually do that? If I can't, nothing is going to grow in James Allen's garden in 2022, that's for sure. Or the wrong things will, just weeds. And I'll look back at the garden at the end of the year and say, what on earth happened to the garden? What a state it's in. The right crops just didn't grow because I never sowed the crop as I should have done. So let's also imagine in 2022 right now that we're standing in the batter's box on a baseball field, and I hope I've got the US terminology rather right here, but several pitchers in this game are lined up, not just one. You've got several pitchers lined up in front of you, and they're all pitching at you. Which ball are you going to strike? Be ready to say no, in other words. Several balls are going to be pitched at you by people every single day. Which one are you going to say no to, and which ball are you going to hit? Because you can only hit one of them. So that's how we've got to start thinking if we're going to get there. Third sort of action point, set positive and not overwhelming goals. I've just mentioned. Yes, set the big goal, so big we call it a dream, as I said, but be very clear about the realistic interim goals, and realistic is key. What resources do we have? What time do we have this week? Which goals can I achieve this week? And then achieve them and don't stop until they're finished, because then we are going to feel good and we're going to be driven into the next week and the next set of goals. Ending the week half finished tends to lead to another bad week because we just feel bad about ourselves, about our performance, about our lack of focus and lack of achievement. Can we really achieve what we've set down in the allotted time? Keep testing that. We'll get better at it. The more we practice, the better at it we get. Have we properly assessed, though, on the points we set down, what's required to complete them, the tools, the equipment, the time, the people, whatever it is, the information, that all has to be done before we can say that task can be completed in that period. And how exactly are we going to set about achieving them in precise steps on a precise day at a precise time? What's required and involved? That is what we talked about a few months back. We have to set a time and a day and a time slot. John puts everything in his diary. Otherwise, he says it doesn't get done. Quite right, because it gets pushed out by something else that suddenly in that moment became more important than your big goal. And we get diluted again and we forget. So real and achievable interim mini goals, not too daunting, grandiose, something bite-sized we can do this week, today, this hour. Smart, as John's talked about, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and realistic. And I think he mentioned this again yesterday. An example of that would be the famous Olympic gold medal swimmer I mention often, John Neighbour. He studied the Olympic gold medal winning time. His dream was to become the gold medalist in the Olympics, and decided exactly how many thousandths of a second on each training session he needed to shave off in order to win the Olympics, which is exactly what he did. So he broke down the task into bite-sized chunks for every single training session. In that work session, this is what I'm going to do. And he just did it. Because if you design them that well, you will just do it. And then before you know it, you've reached the top of a huge stack of issues by the end of the year. And how many times have we heard that? Yes, we've all heard it. We've all said we're going to do it. But a badly designed interim goal will just leave us standing on the station platform, probably for the rest of our lives, actually. Zig Ziglar said, a goal properly set is halfway reached. You're halfway there if you set it down and designed and allotted the time properly. So if you're having trouble with any of this, there are numerous videos on this. There are numerous applications. There are numerous trainers who've talked about this. So there's a lot of material out there. In our own library, there's a lot of material about this as well. And John has often talked about it. So action point 4, before I open the floor in a couple of minutes, ignore what you can't change. This is the positive ignorance I talked about earlier. These things are the obstacles that will not disappear. They're not going to disappear. We can bash our head against them, but they're not going to disappear. You're just going to stand in front of them and not move forward. So don't waste time on insurmountable or immovable obstacles. As Napoleon Bonaparte reminded us, I see only my objectives. The obstacles must give way. I'm not accepting the obstacles. Doesn't mean you just keep hitting your head against them. You find a way round. They give way, but not give way literally by being smashed down. They often won't change, but you get around them. John yesterday mentioned George Bernard Shaw and the unreasonable man. The quote was, the unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. George Bernard Shaw. So yes, be unreasonable, but don't just keep heading your head on a brick wall. Go round it, find a way round. And this is really one of the most difficult disciplines for us to put into practice. We tend to try to change things even when we can't, because we just don't like things we don't agree with that are stopping us. But we've got to get away from that mindset. And by the way, that applies not just to things, but to people. We can't change people often either. We think we can, and we persist, and we end up wasting a lot of time trying to change somebody's mind when they're never going to change it. And you know what this tells me? It is very clear to me that punching brick walls tends to hurt. You can punch a brick wall as many times as you like, but you're not going to make a hole in it. You're going to hurt your hand. So go round it or climb over it. That's my thought on that. Don't try to change the world, in other words. Find the way, find the solution, find the workaround. And I always say to people, there is always a way. Maybe not to get exactly what I wanted, but pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. So I know if you can practice those 4 action points in 2022, if we all can, we're definitely going to succeed this year. That is for absolute certain. That is a guarantee. So I'm going to open the floor on that guarantee and see what you all feel about it, whether there are any thoughts. So jump out, everybody. Anyone who wants to comment. No hands as yet.
Hey, Adrian.
John. Hey, John.
Missy has her hand up. Well, I'll just make a quick comment. As far as punching through brick walls, I saw that on a movie. It was The Matrix, where the agents, they punch and they just smash concrete and stuff. So I was thinking I could do that, but it's just a movie. Anyway, Thank you for your perspectives. I'm inspired every time I hear you talk. So thank you for being a facilitator here. I'm going to yield the floor to Missy and Ali. There's Missy.
Great,
Adrian,
thanks, John. Thanks, John. Yeah, Missy, hi.
I have writer's cramp from all those absolutely astounding, important points that you made. And last night, I went to revise my day according to the Neville Goddard method, and there was only one thing that needed revision because I'm guilty of this constantly. I felt guilty about not talking to someone that I hadn't talked to in a while. So I kept looking at the clock and I was running out of time for another goal, another target or something else that I had to do for the business. And so I wasn't able to do it. And it wasn't like we were talking about world affairs. It could have been continued another time, but I just didn't have the guts to say, and now I have to go. But when I revised it last night, I just cut it. It's nothing personal saying, gee, I have to go right now. I will pick it up at another time. And I don't know why I didn't have the guts, but because I didn't, it stood out to me. And now I'm able to correct that. And your emphasis on it today is even more helpful. So thank you very much.
That's great. Thanks, Missy. And do I dare sort of raise the elephant in the room, John? Let's see what your thoughts are on this and Ali's as well. You know, the elephant in the room is that eggs get broken, as we say in the UK. And unfortunately, the more extreme you are in pursuit of your goals, the more eggs are going to get broken. We cannot keep everybody happy. So the personal decision is how far you're prepared to go, how extreme you're prepared to be in pursuit of your burning desire. And if it's someone like Steve Jobs, he absolutely crushed anyone that stood in his way, including, we might say, you know, people close to him. He was focused only on one thing. Now, maybe we're not prepared to go that far. Maybe we don't have to, but we all have this decision to make as to how much we're prepared to give up, because there is a price to achieve our goals. We cannot be there for everybody all day, every day, and use creative time and achieve our goals. That is the elephant in the room. And we've all got to take decisions on that. But some people we will have to say no to, and it's just who they are. Anyway, that's my thought on that. John might dive back in a minute on that. And Ali has her hand up. So thanks, Missy. Hi, Ali.
Hi. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you, Adrian, so much. I so needed to hear this today. I am realizing such a pattern of trying to nail down one thing, and then within that one thing, getting distracted by lots of other things, even if it is within that one business or one thing. And it's because I am fearful of something. So I make that excuse to get away from that one direction and think that the other direction is easier to get to the goal. And so the guts, oh my God, the guts. I think this is the absolute key to it, isn't it? Not worrying about what anyone's going to think, not worrying about failure, not worrying about what anyone's going to say, even not worrying about what the external circumstances are around what you want to achieve. If it seems hopeless and a ridiculous idea, not even thinking about anything about that, just that utter focus, and just being so brave to continue on that pathway is just key. That's what I am trying.
So pleased you said that. You're absolutely right. And we've discussed it so many times, particularly more at the beginning of the JLSM when we were talking about people feeling they were imposters, because there is a tendency that we feel we don't belong there, that other people that have done these things are not like us, that we don't have a right to be there. Every single person listening to this, everyone in the group has a right to be there. There is nothing more glorious than trying to achieve your goal. Nightingale reminded us of that, you know, pursuit of a worthy ideal is all you need. As long as you've got a worthy ideal and you're pursuing it, you've succeeded. You're doing a great job. You have every right to try. The worst thing is not having a go, because that really is a failure. Not trying anything is a complete failure. Trying something and not succeeding is an Edison moment. You've just found 10,000 things that didn't work. And then you eventually get to the one that does. That's how he put it. So Ali, you're absolutely right. And fear can put us off tackling the really big, chunky, difficult tasks. If so, find a way of getting yourself to do them. Set a deadline, for example, or break them down in a different way so they don't look so bad, such as Mount Everest. But I often find with myself, if I set myself a deadline, say I'm absolutely going to finish it by 5 o'clock on that day, it's the only thing that forces me to say, no, I've got to complete this. Otherwise, I just keep putting it off, put it till next week. Oh, there's something more important. Of course, we're always going to say there's something more important because, as you say, we don't want to tackle it. We don't want to make the awkward call. We don't want to phone the bank. We don't want to do that difficult thing. But we have to, if we're going to really succeed, we've got to get a different mindset on those fearful items. You're absolutely right about that. It's a big, big deterrent. Agree with you, Ali. Thanks for that. So I don't know, John, did you want to talk about the elephant in the room and eggs getting broken and priorities and letting people down?
I don't have anything profound to say about it, but it does remind me of Solomon, where there are no oxen, the stable is clean. So as much as, and I think I talked about this multiple times in the last couple of weeks, as much as I like stability and, you know, reliability and all that, there's also, I mean, if that's all we had, well then, you know, where's the action? Where's the challenge, right? Let's get some oxen in here. So not literally, please. So I'm talking about elephants in rooms, right? But like right now I just met with one of our vendors who we do work with. And they've got a couple of projects that are in the works and that they need my attention on, or they'd like my attention on. And they're things that I haven't really been engaged in that much, but they want my expertise in these new directions. And I was thinking, how unreasonable, right? Typically, if I'm going to take on a project, it's like 90 days just to set up one, right? We're looking at 3 in 30 days. So, and I'm not alone on it, right? But that's the sort of thing where, yeah, eggs are going to get broken, And so I think for me, and this is just for me, I don't like making mistakes. And so I've got to, while getting stuff done, imperfect and done, right? I've got to just be okay with the fact that, and I guess this becomes more apparent the older we get. How much time do I have to like navel gaze on this stuff? Like we got to go at the speed of business, especially, here we are in the 2022, things are moving so fast now. And every day I get to work with people who are engaging in e-commerce because they're recognizing that, hey, this isn't going away. My job did, but e-commerce is here to stay. And so I damn well better get with it now. I'm a little bit late to the party, right? So make haste. I guess that's the thing I'm looking at is the difference between, haste and waste at this point. So yeah, I guess that's the egg breaking elephant, if you'd like. Not sure
it's your imperfect and done. Imperfect and done, isn't it, John?
Yeah.
Get it done and just have a go. As on Ali's point, have a go. Better to have a go, try and do it. You're going to learn the hard way. It didn't work, do it again better next time, but have a go. Otherwise you won't learn anything. That's what you often say. And prioritizing, as I said, prioritizing those tasks and having a go is then going to mean something else has to give way. And you've got to decide what it is. Otherwise it won't happen. So we've got to be so clear with our mindset in January 22 if we're going to complete this year with a nice list of imperfect and dones at the end of it, rather than still waiting for a perfect done, which we're not going to get. So, let's just try and envisage what we want that list to look like in December and how it's going to leave us. Oh, Linda's got a hand up. So we'll take Linda here. Hi, Linda.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, for me, I mean, I really have had a problem saying no to people. So now what I do to try to stay focused is think of my future self that I have set goals for and just say to myself, well, what would my future self say to this? And that keeps me focused and gives me the ability to say no, which I've struggled with. Just knowing who you are, where you're going and where you are helps. Because wherever our focus goes, our energy goes, right? So, but yeah, I just asked
Absolutely love that.
myself, what would my future self say to that? Does that help me get to where I want to be?
That is fantastic, Linda. I really love that. I think that's a great, very clear way of looking at it. And yeah, you're a real thinker. You've shown over the course of these calls, you've developed a long way from where you were when you first set yourself objectives and tasks and you were worrying about them. I think you've come a long way. And to hear you talking like this is absolutely great, because that's a brilliant way of summarizing it, I think. Wish I'd thought of that myself. So I'll add that into the next talk. I'll keep that in the notebook, but I think that's absolutely brilliant. And there you go. If we all think how we want to be in the future, where we're going to be, our future self, following this burning desire, what would we do about it now? What would we say now about defending that time and doing those tasks? When those people are saying, hey, I've got 100 more tasks I'd rather you did than yours. What are we going to tell them? How are we going to filter? So love that. Absolutely love that. I'm not sure if anyone else had any thoughts at this point. Otherwise, we can wrap up. Anyone, please feel free to share your thoughts or frustrations or worries. And, you know, there's lots of advice in the group, lots of other people prepared to dive in on the calls and give their thoughts. So please feel free. But I will say, housekeeping wise, while waiting, 5 p.m. corporate curios, EVA, 5 p.m. Eastern time US, 10 p.m. in the UK. EVA is on the call in the background. So great to have her with us today. She's an absolutely brilliant speaker, as we all know. And she will share with us her management and other talk points tonight. Virginia has put her hand up. Virginia, hi.
Hi, everyone. This is great and very appropriate for this time of the year, you know, getting started on new goals. I just want to share that I'm scanning through my emails while listening to you. And there's an email some of us may have gotten from Blue Sky. Sophie Howard is talking about Amazon, came in today. It says, when you start trying to make more of your life by creating a new income stream, improving yourself, or trying new things, you will have to deal with a lot of negativity from other people. Many of us have friends and family members who are doubters and naysayers, people who tell you that they can't achieve your goals, so there's no point trying. If this sounds familiar, then these words of wisdom by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos might help you deal with them. Responding to an article about why his e-commerce store would fail, Bezos said, "Listen and be open, but don't let anybody tell you who you are." She goes on to say, so true. What are your values? What's most important to you? What do you want to do with your one precious life? And one of her strategic coaches, Dan Sullivan, helps mapping things out. This kind of goes to what Linda just said. If you're taking 12 months from now, and you were to look back over those 12 months today, what has to have happened, both personally and professionally, for you to feel happy about your progress? And then she concludes with, let's make this the year you create a life based around your deepest values and highest vision in life. Best to your success, Sophie Howard. So since most of us came together because of Blue Sky and Sophie, I just thought that was very, coincidental, instrumental, appropriate, whatever, that happened to come in today's emails. So you all may have that in your emails accounts too. But yeah, well spoken. Look back on it from 12 months from now.
That's great, Virginia. And yeah, we all came together because we had a dream. Let's not forget that. We all met John because we had a dream and we wanted to change our lives and do something different that we hadn't tried before. That's how it all happened. And yes, there will be a lot of naysayers. And we've talked about this many times in our sessions as well. You will get pushed off your focus and off course because doubt will creep in when people give you their opinion. There are so many opinions out there. There are probably more opinions than economists. But we'll always have somebody saying, not a good idea, it's going to fail, don't try it, why are you taking the risk, aren't you satisfied with what you have? You know how it goes. So yes, Virginia, absolutely right. We have to be able to say our opinion. Why is our opinion less important than that of other people? Doesn't mean we don't have to listen and take good advice, but judge the people you listen to and their motive. Their motives are not always in your favor. Some of them might be jealous, some of them might be concerned, but sometimes that just yields negativity on their part, consciously or unconsciously. So yes, we've got to get good at that. Believe in ourselves. As I say, have a go. There's nothing wrong with having a go. People can tell you don't have a go, but have a go and see what you find on that journey, not what they tell you you're going to find. That's what really matters. And this goes back to Ellie's point, the fear, dispel that fear and just get on with it. And then you'll be able to say to them, well, I know you told me this, but this is what I actually found when I did it. There's nothing better than doing it. Nobody can counter what you learn and what you can tell them about what you've actually done. They can give you a view and an opinion, but until you're up there with the aircraft controls in your hand, you don't know what it's like. You will not know what it's like.
One
Yeah,
last
Virginia.
comment. I remember reading a quote from Jeff. Is it Bezos? How does he say his name? Anyway,
Yeah.
He was asked when he started Amazon way back when, what does he sell? And he says, I sell books. And then he was asked recently, what does he sell now? He says, I sell whatever the hell I want. So he went from, selling books to selling the entire world.
Yeah.
Whatever he wants.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't confine ourselves in setting our dream. We just have no idea what we can achieve if we really want to. We have no idea. So agree with all of that. And I think we can close on a very positive note, hopefully today, and reflecting on all those things. I've mentioned Corporate Curios, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. UK, if you can join EVA, who's on the call. Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is taken, which is a great quote. So be the focused you, but be you. And Virginia's just touched upon all of this. Success awaits the focused you in 2022. And that I'm absolutely sure of, but set the plans down and act on it. Get this focus and row one boat at a time, which is how I started the whole talk. There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you, said Maya Angelou. So I'll leave you with that thought. Do not bear an untold story inside you and regret it later. So thanks for listening, everybody. Unless we had any further thoughts, I'll close the session off. Thanks all for listening. It's great to see all your smiling faces and hear all your lovely thoughts. Inspired me, certainly. So I'm going to get back and attack that action list and really check it thoroughly and make sure it's the right one. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you all later for Corporate Curios and on tomorrow's general session as well. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye for now. Goodbye. Bye. Bye.